So let's stay with the Exodus. Let's stay with the example of the Exodus. Because that God, that all capital G-O-D, Lord all capital G-O-D, being the same Son of the all capital L-O-R-D God, and this Son, as we've seen continuously, being the God of the sanctuary, the King of the sanctuary, or the High Priest of the sanctuary, being that angel that dwelt among and that went before, and that angel having the ability to pardon sin, and that ability to pardon sin connecting back, and capital A here, so this is a prominent figure, supposed to be a prominent figure, and especially the author of this book understands who they're writing about. We have to connect some dots. But this prominent figure, able to forgive sin, able to pardon sin, in whose name the all capital L-O-R-D God is in, this is the same figure. This is the same Lord, all capital G-O-D, going before and dwelling among this host, exiting Egypt. Now in focusing on Exodus, in focusing on Exodus, I want to focus on the reason for it. I'm not going to get into this too deep, but the reason for the Exodus, was it to prove something against the Pharaoh, or what was it about? Jumping to Exodus 12 and verse 12. Exodus 12 and verse 12, the book of Exodus chapter 12 and verse 12, it reads, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am the Lord." Against the gods of Egypt. This is really what this is about. The Exodus, the plagues, everything here is about removing the host, or the supposed host, or the intended host, from the gods of Egypt, from the worship of Egypt, from the devotional character of Egypt, from the religious conscience of Egypt. This is all religious. Despite how physical it may be written of, this is all for a religious purpose, all for a philosophical purpose. And that purpose is that angel dwelling among, between, and going before. It is to liberate this host from a false religion. This figure is given to liberate this host from a false religion, and to ensure that their pathway to do so is favorable. That's really what that is about. Now jumping to Isaiah 42, 16 and 17. Isaiah 42, 16 and 17. The book of Isaiah, chapter 42, 16 and 17, it reads, "And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them and not forsake them. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say to molten images, you are our gods." Now, this is the same experience of the Exodus. This is the same experience of the Exodus, the experience of being led in a new way, crooked things straight, being ashamed of the gods, a vengeance or an attack against the gods. Personally, the same hate that was placed into that scene or that landscape of the Exodus, it is the same hate that is placed into the scene or the landscape of the inward person. Same hate, same scene, same landscape. Now it's within. This is what it means, Emmanuel. And the same driving force of Emmanuel, because that same driving force drove the Exodus to what it should be, along with the same key figure, it is the same driving force that anticipated prophet preached, and that we are to acknowledge for a more suitable devotional experience. the angst, the displeasure in, and the removal from gods is what this figure, this leading figure at the Lord God's right hand, the all capital Lord God's right hand, that figure's entire movement is about removing the host from a foreign religious experience. It is about removing the host from a foreign religious experience. Now, when we're reading the author of the book of Isaiah, when referencing that anticipated prophet that Moses prophesied of, saying, "The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me and hath anointed me to preach. The Spirit of the Lord, all capital God, is upon me and hath anointed me to preach." And again, "The Lord God and his Spirit hath sent me." This is the Lord, all capital God, and his Spirit hath sent me. We've reviewed these verses. This is in the book of Isaiah. When we're reading that this character is influencing and is inspiring that anticipated prophet, we should know the message attached to that individual. A message of, just as Isaiah 61 says, and is consistent, liberation from prison. Liberation from prison. As Paul to the Corinthians says, "For why should my conscience be judged of another man's conscience? Or why should my liberty be judged by another man's conscience?" From Genesis to Malachi, the authors that inspired the Bible are writing a philosophy using figurative and illustrative language concerning liberation of mind from the context and from the paradigm that religion locks it into. Now imagine that. Imagine that. The Exodus is about vengeance and executing judgment against the gods of Egypt. Against the gods of Egypt. Reading in the book of Isaiah, leading through crooked ways, making crooked things straight, darkness, light, ashamed of gods. This is an attack against the formal or the traditional or the popular structure of religion. It's moving from host, we can take that example from host and from the public, to the internal and to the private. As continually says in the book of Isaiah, the new song that is to be spoken, "Remember not the old things, the former things are passed away. There is a new song to be sung to the all capital Lord God." That new song is a song of redemption. It is a song of liberty from the prison of the constraint of the paradigm connected to popular religion or traditional theological theory or the handwriting of Moses type figures. When we see that anticipated prophet on the scene and being referenced by the author of the book of Isaiah, and the influencer is being mentioned, this influencer isn't from out of nowhere. This influencer isn't just popping up from nowhere. This is an individual that has been there since Genesis, since the Exodus. And the main philosophy connected to this character at the all capital Lord God's right hand is devotional liberty. And when this individual hits the scene, it is devotional liberty that has become the accepted vengeance, that has become the day. Day, not literal. Season, a more correct understanding of that. Vengeance, not literal, but jealousy for the state of the devotional conversations, thoughts, and feelings. That same theme from the Exodus, from the same figure, from the same key figure from the Exodus, is brought into the book of Isaiah and is placed into the context of that individual that should arise from his brethren as prophesied by Moses to give the same message of an exodus that needs to be taken into consideration. There is a lot of learning and unlearning with justification, a subject that indeed encompasses everything that the Bible's character is and everything that our devotional character should embody. So thank you for tuning into this program. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your emails. Thank you for your contribution to this program, because the spark that you give me ignites what is in me and allows my communion to be that much more full when we are together dialoguing. So thank you for tuning in, and please enjoy. Now, this theme is consistent. This theme is consistent throughout the entire Bible. Looking at the book of Isaiah. Looking at the book of Isaiah 1 and 28 and 29. Isaiah chapter 1, 28 and 29. Isaiah chapter 1, 28 and 29 reads, "And the destruction of the transgressors and the destruction of the transgressors and of the sinners shall be together, and they that forsake the Lord shall be consumed. For they shall be ashamed of the oaks which they have desired, and ye shall be confounded for the gardens that you have chosen." Again, the oaks and the gardens that you have chosen, this is an illustration, or this connects back to a specific religious practice of the priesthood at Jerusalem. This consumption is brought to fruition in chapter 10 of Isaiah. So this is against the priesthood here. This is against a religious practice or a devotional conscience. Consistently, Hosea 14, 2 and 3. Hosea 14, 2 and 3. Hosea 14, 2 and 3. "Take with you words and turn to the Lord and say unto him, Take away our iniquity and receive us graciously. So will we render the calves of our lips. A shore shall not save us. We will not ride upon our horses, neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, You are our gods. For in thee the fatherless findeth mercy." Just want to illustrate here, not going to point out every verse, but just want to illustrate here the controversy that is at the core of the Bible's philosophy and what needs to be solved. See, the problem is gods. The problem is the individual giving themselves over to many foreign deities. The individual giving their conversation over to a routine connected to a foreign religious experience. The Exodus is just spot on with just that. The liberation of the host from a foreign religious experience. Again, harping back to what we quoted from Isaiah 42, the deliverance of the devotional conversation, or the exodus of the devotional conversation from a foreign religious experience. And just to highlight something here is that if that first liberation was against the gods of Egypt, we ought to know that the liberation from the gods of Egypt should continue. Liberation from the gods of Egypt means liberation from the worship of a child. Liberation from the worshiping of a dying and rising deity. The liberation of a mother and son, goddess, god, put together worship. The liberation from the trinity of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Liberation from the gods of Egypt means liberation from the gods of Egypt and their pattern. They're not always going to be called by the names that we are familiar with. But in each generation, the gods of Egypt return, and so do their philosophical concepts. The intention of that individual at the right hand of the all capital Lord God is to liberate the conversation from the gods of Egypt. And that entails a lot. With the gods of Egypt comes a perception. With that perception comes an ideology. With that ideology comes a theory. With that theory comes a routine. With that routine comes an experience. With that experience comes a spirit and a character impacting the human being. So the liberation from the gods of Egypt, and put this into perspective because I believe you will know what I'm saying when we ought to be liberated from Osiris, Isis, and the child Horus. In modern terms, we understand what that is. The gods of Egypt and everything synonymous has everything to do with our experience presently, mentally, and devotionally, emotionally, and how we relate to one another empathically. This experience is at the core of the scriptures in the context of liberation, and by that same key figure that is forever consistent. Now, if it is written that the intended prophet is prophesied by Moses was to put forth a philosophy called Emmanuel, the character of this individual's devotional conversation was to be understood as Emmanuel. Was to be understood as Emmanuel, meaning this individual's devotional conversation and the philosophy attached to it was supposed to be one, if you encountered it, educating your devotional conversation and its conscience that the living God is within. The living God is within. That means, in a base surface sense, everything without should be non-existent to the experience. That means a physical, flesh-based devotional experience means nothing to what is going on within, because that's not where the living God resides. To the out, that's not where the living God resides. The living God resides within. Now on the next, how is that possible? How is it possible? Because everything without that we know and that we associate with a true feeling religion kind of is acknowledged by and accentuates stimulus to give us a feeling of devotion. By that feeling, we know that we are in an experience. That's false. So how is it that is within the living God is supposed to be present? Times prior and even episodes prior going over and through this subject, what is supposed to be within is a specific wisdom. A specific wisdom, that wisdom called Emmanuel. So the living God is to exist within via Emmanuel. This specific philosophy of liberating the conscience of the conversation from its former experience to one where it has become a creation. And this is again the concept that Paul to the Ephesians brought out. Put off your former conversation and be renewed in the spirit of your mind and be created. Put on that new man, which is created. So this isn't a foreign concept. Create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me, said the psalmist. Again, this is not a foreign concept. This is what is called in one word, Emmanuel. This is the philosophy called Emmanuel. And if in the Exodus that angel dwelt among and went before, that's the work of Emmanuel. And if in Isaiah 42 the work is continued, that's Emmanuel. When that individual hit the scene, that individual that Moses prophesied about hit the scene, his philosophy is supposed to be about what is residing within. What is residing within. That means a complete cleansing, just as we see in the book of the Kings and the book of the Chronicles, all the cleansings that the kings did to the sanctuary, that's figuratively illustrating the experience that not we personally, but the devotional conversation's conscience is supposed to have within its heart. The sanctuary of the conversation's conscience, which is the mind of the conversation's conscience, that's why it says be renewed in the spirit of your mind, is supposed to go through a period of cleansing. This period of cleansing is called justification. Justification is cleansing. If the Bible's advocating justification, and if in every instance of justification, the sanctuary is being cleansed of false deities, of false gods, and is being purged of a false priesthood, well, this needs to really connect back to us. Because that same angel that guided their journey through the Exodus, that same angel inspiring those kings to do what they're doing, that same individual inspiring that author to write of that prophet, the Spirit of the Lord God and his Spirit hath sent me, Lord God, all capital G-O-D, hath sent me. This is the same work. And what is, said or spoken of in this work is the cleansing of the sanctuary of the devotional conversations, thoughts, and feelings. Our religious character needs a facelift. First of all, we need to leave it. It needs to just be put away. But the memory of it is what is supposed to influence or to guide the blossoming of something far better, which is something intimate and personal to our individual human being, for our individual human beings' living experience. When engaging the philosophy that is within the Bible, the number one thing that we will want to do is to demonstrate the philosophy that we have. But there is a safe way to do it. Head on over to my website, check out my books, and click my newest book, A Faith That Works. This is a book concerning ministry, for pastoral care, and even for leaders over organizations for human service. But at the core of it is the spirit or the philosophy or the character that is within the Bible's mind. There needs to be a faith within the servant that works. The servant must not work their faith that leads to harm, but the faith within must work freely and must not be noticed as it is working. This is a labor through empathy, and this book talks about how empathy connects with ministry and how the empathy within ministry connects to the philosophy that is within the scriptures, and how that philosophy should fall right back down to our human being and to our devotional conscience to make our ministry sure. So check this book out. It's very well for the individual whose mind is geared toward ministry, public or private. And this is why we really can't get away from the fact that when that prophet hit the scene of action, his philosophy was a philosophy moving the eyes to extend heavenward, in that the individual conversation ought to reside with the wisdom that is within the temple above, and that is being overseen and guided by that figure at the Lord God's right hand. Just again, turning to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 57:15. Isaiah 57:15. Isaiah 57 and verse 15 reads, "For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones." This is the work. This is the work. And the work is supposed to take place within the high and holy place. Now, there's no limit here. Now, the author is saying, speaking as if he is that figure at that right hand. He is saying, I reside in the high and the holy place with him that is of a contrite and humble spirit. This him is unknown. That means we can slip into that and should. That means this individual is not in any place on this earth. This individual is in the temple above. Now, we are not literally there or can be there literally at, in reference. This is in reference to our mind being there. That's why it doesn't say anything about flesh. It says everything about spirit. With him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit. So it is what is within that is to transcend what is here and move upward. In episodes prior, I went over this concept, but we are mentally and devotionally to exist within the temple above with that figure at that right hand. Who is this Holy One, though? We've reviewed this again. Isaiah 30, same book, Isaiah 30:15. "For thus saith the Lord God, the Holy One of Israel." Now, there is only one Holy One in context, and in context, it is this high priestly figure. Now, we can go through the Bible and see that the all capital Lord, and especially in the book of Isaiah, is written of as being the Holy One of Israel. And yet, we have here the Lord, all capital God, confessing himself to be the Holy One of Israel. Well, the idea is sort of similar to how Exodus 7, 1 and 2. In Exodus 7, 1 and 2, you have Moses saying, or the Lord saying to Moses, listen, you will be as God to Aaron and to everybody else, and Aaron will be your prophet. I will speak to you. You will speak to Aaron. Aaron will speak to them. It's the same concept here. The all capital Lord, as we've seen in episodes prior, has an agent that executes not just word, but wrath, and not just wrath, but word. Everything that is executed or spoken of or spoken from the all capital Lord, it is spoken through the Lord all capital God. Same concept here. It's the same concept from Moses and Aaron to the all capital Lord to the Lord all capital God. Same concept here. This figure is speaking the mind or the words of the all capital Lord God to his host, because that's his appointment. This individual is the mediator between host and the one on the throne. And his responsibility is to ensure the liberty of that host and their safe deliverance to a territory or to a region where a right devotional experience can take place. Now, for us, the book of Isaiah gets personal. This isn't about a literal exodus. This is about the exodus of the devotional conversations, thoughts, and feelings. This figure wants and is encouraging the individual conversation to journey on an exodus with it. And when I say with it, with the wisdom connected to that figure and to the office that he has. It is our exodus away from the religion of Egypt, the modern theological theory of Egypt, and into a territory or into a terrain or into a realm where our conversation can be healthy, can grow, and can heal not just its own self, but our human being along the way.